they forget about the thing growing up, and then like it essentially blows up, and you just hear like a bang, and then next time you open the cupboard to get shit out of the cupboard, fucking cider everywhere, man. It sucks.
I've done that with kefir, and it's sprayed up. I used to store it right behind my couch. Why behind my couch? Because I was in college, and so the back of my couch was covered in like milk kefir just everywhere. So that couch had to go because you couldn't scrub it out.
Wait, take a step back. Sorry, what the fuck?
Did you actually brew cider, or was it just like a sink full of like unclean dishes that was just fermenting on its own?
No, this wasn't cider.
Hello and welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast from independent validator teams. And on this week's episode, we want to kick off and immediately start talking about the bizarre team tactics from Team Jumbo-Visma in the last two stages of the Vuelta a España. What was Jonas Vingegaard doing on stage 16 when he started to open up a gap with 3 kilometers to go? Is GC Kuss a meme or is it a dream? Schultzy, what do you think is happening in the DS camp at Jumbo-Visma right now?
Well, I assume these are all words, but I can't quite identify them.
What the fuck you're talking about? Like none. Is that the title?
Was quite heavily prescripted.
Oh. Okay, so that I just assumed
a
it
heavily
was real,
scripted reference,
but I have no idea.
Of course, the Vuelta, which is currently happening, but a little bit of internecine warfare looks like it's taking hold. It'd be interesting to see what happens there. You guys kind of have a dog in the fight, right? Because the current red jersey race leader is Sepp Kuss, Yankee Doodle, the Durango Kid.
What are we talking about?
In America. Durango? That's a place in America somewhere.
Right, but what are we talking about? Are we talking about a sport? Are we talking about...
I have a feeling this is a cycling reference.
Is it a cycling reference?
It has to be.
Right. For some reason, I feel like it was F1. I don't know why.
No, F1, some people know about. Like, there was actually recognizable names in F1.
This is recognizable. Recognizable names in
Sepp Kuss? Is that the name that you said?
Sepp Kuss, yeah.
See, that one's actually Googleable. I had to figure out. It was going to be like Bob Smith or something. Sepp Kuss? Yeah.
That's quite the name.
He's a cyclist.
Oh, okay. That's quite the name. Sepp Kuss.
Sepp, S-E-P-P.
Double P. S-E-P-P. C-U-S-S. C-U-S-S? K-U-S-S.
K-U-S-S. So close to piss spelled backwards. Almost.
Piss sup? Sup piss? I'm not sure that. Yeah.
You're close enough with him that you can say that, right?
Yeah.
You should go down to the cafe. Hey, Sepp.
Yeah.
Hey, Sepp Kuss.
I assume he lives in Andorra, like most professional cyclists, for tax and altitude reasons. But yeah.
So he's American.
Yeah. That's what I said. He's from Durango,
Colorado. Yeah.
I assume it is somewhere high in America.
It's in Wyoming. Maybe I think is what we're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, Wyoming. Is Wyoming a high state?
I mean, it can be. Yeah.
Generally speaking, yeah, it's quite high because it's in the Rockies.
It's definitely in the Rockies.
He's known as a climber, so that would be if he'd grown up at altitude. That would
6,500 feet. So yeah, it's up there.
What's that in real money? 2,000 meters?
A little bit more. Yeah.
2,000. Yeah. Okay. 2,000 meters. That's pretty fucking high. That's like top of an Alp high. Okay, so no wonder he's quite a good climber if he fucking grew up in the bloody mountains.
Yeah, literally, with no oxygen, just going uphill.
Literally, yeah. He's just used to having no oxygen at all, any of the time. Anyway,
Durango's in Colorado, though.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Isn't there Durango, Wyoming as well?
I looked up Durango, Wyoming because I didn't recognize it. I'm from Wyoming, and
no, you're right, Colorado. My bad. You're right. It's Colorado.
I got excited for a moment there. I was like, wow, someone that's actually from Wyoming? No.
You're from Wyoming?
Somebody's from Wyoming doing something.
I got excited for a moment. I was like, wow. My people.
They're just out there in the world. They're just out there in the world.
Not a bear or something that.
Yeah.
All our stories are about bears.
Although this is not relevant, we should move on to the news in a second. My favorite thing that's happened in cycling in the last couple of years was with in the Olympics, right? The British coverage is super strange, right? And we only ever get medals in a couple of sports, but cycling is one of them. And one of the ones that we won was cross mountain biking. The guy that won, I think, is about 20 years old, something like that. His name's Tom Pidcock. He happens to be a road cyclist, and he's very good, and despite being very, very young, but he's not really like a household name. And they had this interview with his parents where they were obviously pissed with their friends at a pub in Yorkshire, right? And they were very Yorkshire people. So they're like very, very plain spoken. They're just like shenanigans going on in the background, stuff like this. Halfway through the interview, something just falls over in back of shot. It was amazing. But the best thing was the interviewers obviously were just like knocking through whenever a British person won a medal. They was like, oh, quickly, interview the family. And they had none of the background. And so they just figured out this guy's like 19 years old. He probably lives with his parents. This is like a real shock. And they're like, have no idea that he's like probably on a €2 million contract, lives in Andorra, is a professional cyclist, has done like a couple of seasons, has won some pretty major one-day races. And so they interview his parents, who all of their children are like really sporty in some way. Like they're like rowers, or they're on, the development team for gymnastics for Team GB or something. All of the kids are. And there's these two parents, they're just like, oh, so it's very hot in Japan. Did Tom have the heat training tents that Team GB gave out? Did he put it up in the garden? And then his mum's just like, oh, I expect he put it up in his flat in Andorra where he bloody lives, kind of thing. It was great. And then there's the obviously between shots, you could tell the dad was just surreptitiously swinging for a pint of beer. And at the end of the interview, somebody had put some flowers and stuff in the edge of the shot as like a congratulations, I guess, while they were talking. And then everything just tipped over really slowly like that, just as they were saying goodbye. It was a shambles. It was great. Speaking of shambles, our news section, courtesy of Rama, was supposed to be live delivered by Rama today, but I gather he's having technical issues, which is why I'm having to hastily cover with some of Frey's favorite cycling moments of the last 3 years.
My screen keeps going blue.
I mean, I can share some cycling moments too.
I mean,
the world record for racing the Great Divide, which is a 2,700-mile bike route from Canada to Mexico, just got beat. It's 12 days and 12 hours and like 17 minutes is the new record. So he averaged like 250 miles per day.
That's what, from the border to the border? Is that what you said?
It's from Banff, Canada to the border of Mexico. Yeah, going down the Rockies.
That's a big ride.
How miles a day?
250 miles a day. An insane amount. I mean, you're going
mostly
over the
downhill
crest.
though, right?
No. So you're starting off at Banff, which means you're
pretty high.
You're quite high, and then you climb over the Rockies in Wyoming, you come back down, climb over the Rockies in Colorado, come back down, New Mexico, come back down. Okay. So it's, I think, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico. Insane amount of climbing, 12 days, 12 hours. Absolutely outrageous.
That's like that's like the new Cannonball, huh? That's like the it's the cyclist Cannonball.
Yeah,
that's totally crazy.
It is crazy. And the way he did it, here's how he did it. He didn't think he'd win the record, but he was like, I figured I'd try this new thing where I would ride my bike for 48 hours straight, and then I would sleep for 12 hours. And then I just repeated that a couple times.
Perfect.
Because who needs sleep when you're doing?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Insane endurance.
So how long did you work on that? I was like, I'm going to ride a lot, and then I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
There's a pretty devastating. Well, it's an interesting documentary. It's kind of low key. It's like very low budget. It's called something like what's it called? On Board the Transcontinental race, I think, which is despite.
I was on the edge of my
across
seat
the
learning
continent
about
of
this.
Europe, say 3-day, 4,000 mile. I think it's 3 days. It's something like 3 or 4 days. Oh no, it's got to be more than that. I think 3 or 4 days is the quickest time people do it. I think it's about 4,000 kilometers. But there's really hard cut-off time, and if you're just a bit not fit enough to really be doing it, the cut-off time is such that you'll probably do it on that day, and you'll probably arrive on that day, but you will miss the cut because the cut is like early evening. So if you basically, like, on that final day, if you've paced it badly, you will be like 50 kilometers too slow, and it happens to loads of people who are just not quite fit enough to do it in the time cut. And this documentary covers like 3 years of it, just like following some riders and following, like, because I think the founder had died like shortly before, had been hit by a car and died, and that was why they sort of crowdfunded this film about this DIY race, basically, because they were like, yeah, maybe look left before you turn in case there's a cyclist, and also here's a cool event in his documentary in honor of the guy that died. But yeah, they cover about 3 years of it because of COVID. I think they were going to do 2 years of it, and then they ended up having like a big gap or something like that. But every time people miss the time gap by like a really small amount after being on their bike non-stop for a week and sleeping like 3 hours a night and stuff. It's brutal. I don't know why it's paced. It must be like it must be like if you can ride like 200 watts or like whatever that is in watts per kilo for most people. Like, I don't know, if you can ride like 2.4 watts per kilo constantly forever, you won't make the time cut. But if you can ride 2.5, or it must be like something like there's something about the average that just means that it, like, if you're pretty fit, you'll fail. But if you've trained your proverbials off, then you'll be fine. I don't know. But it's really sad. Like, when you
The Great Divide's a heck of a lot of fun to watch because, they're in the mountains most times, so you don't have reception, and so everyone has like the Garmin InReach, which tracks them the entire time, and then they're on a web page that you can see, and from like day one, you'll start seeing people flip from orange, where like they're active, to gray, where now they're just a tourer. They're no longer a race.
They're just toast.
Yeah.
Was there was a documentary about the Great Divide on Netflix, wasn't there?
I don't know about Netflix, but yeah, there was one that followed Lauren, I believe.
Is that Ride the Divide?
Yeah,
I'll put a link.
They're crazy. They'll the people that do the Great Divide, they'll prep by riding from like wherever they came from. So a lot of people will ride from like Juneau, Alaska down to Banff, or like Florida to Banff. And you're like, okay, so you're just gonna do like a 3,000 mile warm up ride? Great, perfect, smart.
I mean, that sounds like fun, man.
It would, but Jesus God, that means like you're riding for 2 months.
Does it though?
I mean, yeah. If that bull market had gone a bit better, where would Frey be now?
Yeah,
just somewhere in the mountains with a Garmin and a bike and a packet of crisps, probably. Although probably not, actually, because I end up having a baby, so it'd be really irresponsible.
Just
you probably can't. Can't just lash a baby to the back of the bike. That's not a sensible thing.
You could do a cargo bike. Like one guy, he raced the Great Divide with his dog. His dog's like,
really?
I let me pull it up. I swear to God.
So I know for a fact that somebody has completed. So there's a 9-day event in the UK called the Land's End to John O'Groats. It's like not too bad. It's like whatever 130 kilometers a day, and Britain's not that hilly. But I'm pretty certain that somebody a couple of years ago rode it on a tandem where their young child was on the back as a non-pedaling tandem rider, and then there was a trailer behind, I think, with their baby in, and then their wife was, I think, maybe also with the trailer. I think they had 3 kids. It was insane. This whole family like did it. Citation needed on that one, but I think they also got their own. So somebody I know rode a hill climb race. They were a hill climber before they became a mum, and and they rode a hill climb race when their daughter was a year old, with their daughter in a buggy behind the race, behind the bike. And in time trials, in regulated time trials, most of them whimsically, as a relic from when this was a thing in like the 1910s or whenever, they have a separate category that you automatically get put in if you turn up on a tandem. A lot of regulation time trials can't technically stop you from lining up if you line up on a tandem, because back in the day it was a thing, right? You just get put into your own category. So if you turn up with your baby daughter in a in a pulley thing and it's got wheels, they just go, I guess it's a tandem, and then you end up winning the tandem category as the only entrant. So there's this time trial out in the Peak District that has like a standing record for the tandem, and it's been set by this lady and her daughter, which is quite funny.
That's pretty fun. That's cool.
Yeah, they're like,
I put that on my resume.
That time. Yeah.
I was just looking at you brought up this. I was looking up. I remember like some other story similar to that with the dog on the back of the bike. I remember somebody doing the same thing with like walking across the United States.
Forrest Gump?
No, it wasn't Forrest. Forrest did that too, right?
Although wasn't that a plot point? That's a good point.
That was. I was looking at Subway Sean, which I think was like around the. I remember this guy from. I think it was around the pandemic who walked from New York to LA, but only ate at Subway sandwich locations like the whole way. It was 176 days of just walking and Subway. I remember this because he was live streaming like every day because you just walk literally like down.
I mean, so Subway is one of my go-to meals for when I do like long bike packing rides. That and Taco Bell. Taco Bell is like the best. Really? Oh yeah, because it has a really low glycemic index. So like if you need energy now, you eat some Taco Bell and like you're ready to rock right now. But Subway is actually great, like value for money for like calories.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, but you need like the right calories as well.
I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's part of this complete breakfast, right? I'm just saying, like, if you're going on, yeah.
But this is why Belgium is the best place to do long distance cycling, because weirdly they have a big expat Italian community, and so everywhere, like, not because of Italian people, everywhere will serve you a carbonara in Belgium. Like almost all of Wallonia,
just bring it out.
Yeah, like everywhere just serves spaghetti carbonara, right? And then the beer is bottle conditioned, so it actually does have some nutrients in it, and it's isotonic because it's beer, right? So it's okay. It's a little bit dehydrating. Let's just put a pin in that one. And yes, it is 9%, which is not good for your hand-eye coordination, but 1 or 2 at lunchtime. I mean, come on.
Again, you're burning it off. Yeah,
exactly. I'm just saying, you know,
seems like a good time.
It's the way to do it.
Stop for chocolate.
I mean, that's great too. Chocolate. I mean, chocolate is just legit, straight up, super good for long rides. I mean, just sugar. You just want carbohydrate, right? On a super long ride, the closer it is to raw sugar. Actually, if you make your own flapjacks, that's the winning, because you can put multiple types of sugar in. So you put like brown sugar and then muscovado sugar, and then one of them will act differently from the other, I guess.
For pancakes? Wait, what? What are you saying to me right now? Is there a difference between a flapjack and a pancake? I thought those were the same thing.
Same thing.
Wait, what?
No, flapjack is a cake made of oats.
Oh, not here.
Okay. Yeah, not here. Same thing here.
Flapjack is like you get oats and you get golden syrup, and then you add sugar and then whatever you want to it, and then you bake it. That's a flapjack.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna look up a recipe for that right now.
I can give you mine, my man. Although I think they're about 800 calories per flapjack because they're for long distance cycling.
I normally go with oatmeal scotchies for that.
You go for what?
Oatmeal scotchies. It's like an oatmeal cookie with butterscotch chips in them. Oh, it's so good.
Okay, so basically the same thing, because you can make, because flapjack is oats, right? And you can actually do flapjacks with oatmeal, which makes it kind of cakey in consistency. Although I don't know, for the purposes, there was a conversation the other week about the whole cake lawsuit thing. I don't know whether flapjacks with oatmeal in them are biscuits or cake. I think they're still biscuits legally, probably.
We are off the fucking rails here.
Yeah.
Well,
So I think we need to conclude that Rama is dead.
He's dead.
Long live the Rama. And we're going to have to continue without him.
As yep.
But first,
Huge disappointment.
Huge disappointment.
Huge.
It's nice to let the interns have a crack at the prize and come out from behind the curtain, but not going to happen on this occasion. So
oh yeah, dig the book
let's
out.
get moving.
Let's get moving on this.
Right, Schultzy, you're up this week. Say when.
Let's just do
when.
Ooh, we are in the section marked police. Would you like the left page or the right page?
Right page, fourth from the bottom.
Fourth from the bottom, so the counting up.
Yep.
A man on a mountaintop won't stop yelling wanker. The cops cannot reach him because of falling rocks. Sounds like
that's a good one.
I kind of have the suspicion that the drill guy might be English, just because almost everything in it, every single reference is like American stuff, except for there's a few of them that use bloody, and there's a few use wanker, and you're just like, you guys don't say wanker, don't you?
Not at all. No. Canadians do, but I use wanker because I think it's hilarious, and I almost always get like a look from people of like, what is he saying to me? Should I be offended? And I'm like, I'm just gonna move on from right there. I'm just going all the way.
It's just the greatest. It's just the greatest insult. It rolls off the tongue. It's so.
By the way, he's from New Jersey.
Really, from New Jersey,
the farthest place from both culturally. From me. Yeah, he's from New Jersey. I thought so too. I remember because I know they know who he is and like who that person is.
He's from New Jersey.
He's from New Jersey. He used to be on the Something Awful forums, which I used to like put out 20 years ago. Maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was on Essay. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that name too because I think it was like something else drill, but it was like, I forget what the hell it was. And he's been FYAD if you guys were on that shit.
Yeah. Huh.
Essay used to be awesome. I loved it like the early 2000s or all that kind of. Maybe it wasn't that far ago. Maybe 2005. Maybe after that. That was a lot of fun.
I mean, the internet was better back in the day, wasn't it?
It was a lot less shitty. Yeah.
I mean, it was like objectively a lot more effort. Like everything was more effort.
Yes.
But it was very like, I don't know, like it was very interestingly atomized, like just by default, I think. Like when I think about like the number of random people over the years that I've known or met via like random forums and stuff like that. But then I guess like it's probably the same, I don't know, Zoomers chip in. I guess it's probably the same these days. There'll be a vector that's similar, but it would just be like different, I don't know, influencers fees or something like Reddit feels like one of the only places that's very like the internet of old, but it's still very centralized, I guess, which is like,
it's very, I remember pre-Google when you were like basically looking things up on Yahoo, right? Because it was basically a listing, right? It wasn't search. It was just you applied to have a site listed on a location, and then that was a very small list, right? I mean, it was large at the time, but it was whatever. Say it was 50,000 sites or something.
Did you have Ask Jeeves? That thing that came out before Google.
Ask Jeeves.
Oh yeah.
Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves. Netscape had their own search, I think, early on, like based in those days.
Did you know that Yahoo is like a massive conglomerate in Japan? Like everyone uses Yahoo. Like they don't use eBay, they use Yahoo. They don't use Craigslist, they use Yahoo. And among a bunch of other things. It's wild.
It's crazy that they're still around, yeah. But
wild, genuinely
like
wild.
Those, but you had like a small list of sites, and then there you basically branched that off to find other ones, and then you shared those things, right? You'd bookmark them, and then you'd share that with some. Yeah, hey, I found this. Like this is cool. Yeah, and then you start getting
and then you send all your friends an email that happened to have a virus in it, and they're like, "Fucking hell, man! You sent me this thing, and now my computer is my family computer is a worthless piece of crap." Right. And then you're like, "Well, you should have used Linux." And then your friends stop talking to you in the playground, and then you decide to become a Cosmos validator 10 years later. I mean, it's just like
well, you call somebody an asshole and use some sort of Usenet group, but your name's on it, and you didn't realize that. Then they track you down and come to your door. That'd be one thing, right? Because like it wasn't no anonymity back then. Or like you do like a finger command on Unix, like you try to figure out who that person is. Remember that? Remember, like you used to be able to do a finger, like where it was like a finger command where you could finger at a specific address, like a basically a name at a server, and it would bring back like what your full name is and all that kind of stuff, because they didn't really lock those ports down back in the old finger days. And yeah. Like look that up. They used to be crazy because back in college, I remember you could like if you had an email from anybody, you could just like do fingers and see like it would show like what their office is and like their office hours. Like you basically use it as like a Rolodex, right? And pull that data back.
I totally forgot about fingering.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, Yahoo. Yeah,
fingering means something different in the UK, so
it means something different here. Yeah,
let's.
What else
it
was
doesn't
early
mean
days?
that.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good. Then when Google showed up like that, and then you have, like I don't know, I remember like early days of like all these like MSN, or maybe it was MSN. I forget who, like some of the
MSN and
original
Yahoo.
maybe some of the original big properties that just had like started pulling together like weather and sports and news and shit under one domain, which was never like that before, right? It was always like, oh, this is my local news site, or this is something else. And like it was very compartmentalized, and they start getting bigger and bigger and all that kind of shit. And yeah, it started to get less fun, that's for sure. And now we have Twitter.
And now we have X.
Oh,
but not for much longer at current rate of play. So
I don't know. It's still losing.
Imagine my surprise. It turns out it's still losing money because the leadership at the top is garbage.
Yeah.
So, in the absence of our glorious intern, shall we do a bit of news corner without Null? Null is gone walkabout. He's gone to Belonga Null, and he's look, the point, right? So he went to Cosmoverse last year, and he pissed off the cartel in Medellin, and we all know what happens to an Australian person that pisses off an American drug dealer or drug cartel. Eventually, they're in the bush, engaging in shenanigans, trying to lead them on walkabout so that they can, via a series of convoluted but non-lethal means, disarm all the henchmen and eventually bring them to the justice of the Australian police system. Because they, doing that in America, it's difficult. There's regulations and laws and stuff. So instead, it's just crocodile hats on, out into the bush. That's how it works, right?
I think machete is also required, but I could be
machete required.
Maybe a crocodile skin vest. Yeah.
Yeah. Which kind of like it sort of makes sense, right? To break the meme for a second, break the fourth wall and go. It's interesting, of course, that film is an American film, right?
No, it's not. Is it really?
Yeah, like Crocodile Dundee. Yeah, you guys
yeah,
love
that
meme, that Australian meme, as much, if not more, than the American.
That's a true story. I thought that was a documentary.
Steve Irwin is bigger in America than in Australia.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, Noel had to break that gently to me whenever he was staying over here. That to Australians, he wasn't anything, and then for like Americans, it was.
We talked about it late night. It's like, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah. I was like, what? You can't say that. I follow his son on Instagram. What do you mean?
I think he made fun of us for that and Mr. Rogers, and there was one other personality, I forget what it was, but it was like Steve Irwin and Mr. Rogers were like, yeah. And Schulte and I were like, fuck you, man. Like
Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers is the weird, like, I thought that was a joke, and then like I realized it was a real thing. And
I
then
will cut you.
You do a little bit of looking around and you're just like,
don't you bad talk, Fred.
You're like, this guy can't be real.
He was real. God damn it.
Well, so the thing is, we had people like that in the UK, right? And then we had this thing called Operation U-Tree, which was a wide-ranging investigation into historical wrongdoing. And
I'm sure
now we don't have any beloved children's characters like that anymore. There are none left. It turned out that it was all too good to be true.
Yeah, that's like Pee Wee Herman. Like you get one blowjob, and then your whole life's work is down the train. It's ridiculous. Pee-wee didn't wait. Compared to like other things. I mean, Pee-wee didn't do nothing. Then you got shit on that for long.
Is that really all it was?
Yeah, I thought it was a. I could be wrong. I thought it was like a call girl in a public movie theater or something like that. Something like that. I forget. And what about Hugh Grant? Same thing.
Yeah, or you know, Bill Clinton
pulled out. Yeah, he's like Teflon Don though. Like it just rolled off. He's like, yeah. God, it sucked.
Everybody would have had it done.
No, but Fred, I no stories came out about Fred. You got keep your what is that group called that goes back and shits on everybody's history?
Historians?
No. No,
the investigative journalists, detectives, police
mentioned.
detectives.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know where we're going with this. But oh my God.
Anyway, back to Steve Irwin. Oh, there we go.
Speaking of Steve Irwin,
finally someone can do the news.
Finally.
Well, I'm hello. I made it. I'm on makeshift here. Pulled out the old portable computer.
Those are called like mobile tops, right? Is that what those are called?
Yeah, I don't know. It's this new Fandangle technology we just got here in Australia. Usually it's like this bulbous looking device with the corded keyboard and mouse, but this one, like you can move it around and stuff. Like, woo! Yeah,
look at that.
Wild.
Latest technology. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
You're looking well, Ramen.
Congrats. You're looking good.
The bear market plus children seem to be doing well for you.
The lightings, I had the room light on and then it was flickering. I guess that, you know, this new Fandangle technology can't keep up with my 60 hertz light bulb or something like that.
Just wait till capacitors get to Australia. Things will change quick. Yeah.
Is that the bucket you use to take water from the well hanging behind you? Is that what you guys use?
Yeah, I think the wife decided that it would be really nice to put a plant in the office. That was the plant. It did not survive. I don't know why is the lighting. Anyway,
in our shared office, somebody had the same idea where they were like, "Man, this place it's bleak. We keep saying we're going to repaint the walls, but not because it's a shared office and all of us work for different companies. You know, we never seem to get around to it. So I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to buy some pots, you know, some hanging fancy pots, because we have like these big steel I-beams. We're in like a loft. We'll put the pots, we'll hang them down. It's going to be great. It's going to be like a hanging garden vibe. And predictably, right, what happens? They get like 4.
All dead.
The plants die quickly. And then the taller people in the office start hitting their heads on the pots. And then the pots start falling until there was just one mesh, you know, like the rope bag that the pot came in with no pot in it, hanging down from the middle beam in the room. That was all that was left. Just one sad, empty scrotum of a pot holder. And it was quite a good metaphor for like the tragedy of the commons. If you're into economics, it was like one person put in all the effort, the rest of us did nothing, and now we can't have nice things. Though what we should, I mean, the actual solution probably was just like taxation. Somebody should have said, "Hey, can everybody just chip in 100? We're all too lazy. We're all too busy. Can everybody just chip in 100 quid? We'll just get in a painter and paint the fucking place." That's what we should have done. Or get
here's what I'll say to that. One of the biggest life-changing things I've had was paying someone to mow my lawn. They come out twice a month, $70 a month, and it's like life-changing. No longer have any of that stress. It looks better than as if I'm going to do it.
That's an American and an Australian problem, let me tell you.
Seriously. My lawn is like 8 inches because it just stresses the shit out of me too.
Yeah, well,
yeah, exactly.
I live in the UK, so my garden is 3-4 foot by 6 foot or something like that. The lawn's about that big.
Yeah,
I have a manual mower. Just like
this is the thing that's the actual. Wow, you haven't got new motors either. Interesting.
We had them, and then we did Brexit, and now there's a shortage of motors. So we've just gone back to, you know, it was good enough for your granddad. In fact, this was your granddad's. You know, there's no new motors, so we're just gonna have to resharpen the old ones, lads. Blitz spirit.
Yeah, I think this is like a fundamental issue with the modern male. It's like, I'm just gonna get someone else to come in and cut my grass. I can't handle this. I can't do it. It's, you know, have pride in your property and your lawn. All right. If you can't trim your lawn, then how are you gonna hold a wife? All right. Fundamentals, boys.
Says the man with the empty hanging flower pot behind him. at least
you should see my see my grass though, man.
This is like the most Australian thing.
This thing I can't do shit about. My grass outside, fucking awesome.
Like it's very Australian to come on.
Boundaries,
like,
right?
Look, the problem is that you Americans are getting cucked by your lawn. Mic drop.
Yep, exactly.
All right, do some news. We're excited
All
for
right.
a real news.
Real news. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Game face. Shit. Pressure's on. So just keeping up.
Is it always negative?
What do you mean? No,
is there
no negative here?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No. First off the rank, the big news, the big shelling point of Cosmos now. No more when USDC. It's here. I don't. No one knows how to get it. I think businesses have to get it first. You have to buy it from Circle.
But this is the problem with Circle, right? Is that Circle at the gateway is garbage, because if you're in the UK, you can't fucking use it with a business account.
Positive news. Positive news spray, all right? Circle USDC, native Circle. USDC is here, okay?
It's here.
I feel blessed. I feel absolutely blessed.
In the area, it's near.
It's here adjacent.
Exactly.
If you are able to, and you are a business, you can buy it, and then put it in your D app. That's what I got from the Circle website. But it's here and it's native, and you know you're going to be able to IBC it when someone buys it, and then adding to that, this part I think is really cool. You know, it's here. That's kind of nice. What they're looking to do though is like bridging between. Oh, I'm about to run out of battery, so I'm in all sorts of shambles.
Fucking hurry up.
They're going to be using Squid Router, Circle's transfer protocol, and IBC to enable one-to-one ETH to DYDX swaps in one click. So ETH USDC to DYDX USDC, one click, one transaction.
Like, okay. It's cool. Yeah. Kind of similar to a way a USDC works on a SEX across multiple different Ethereum-based chains, right? Same type of thing. Like it's just USDC.
Yeah, and you'll only pay like 40 cents per dollar to do it.
I'm jacked.
I'm jacked to the tits!
Good.
Do you feel it?
No.
Wow.
Sorry. There. Oh,
I'm just wandering through the house. You can get the live view of wandering through the house to get the
to get the power cord.
This is the live news, breaking news right here. The news reporter is about to run out of battery.
That is the most Australian hat I've ever seen in my life.
That's what I was just about to say. Where's your snake vest,
literally,
man?
Do you get that? It's an Akubra. It's the Australian hat. It doesn't get any Australian.
Do you get
that? That's true.
Is that like at birth? Did they give you that? Like, is that given away? Like,
that one was a birthday present.
So you don't have to have a subscription for it
when he was born. It was literally put on the baby. They're like, it's a bit big for you now, Nipper, but you'll grow into it.
Here's your birth certificate. Here's your hat.
You never get this from Noel. Noel would never give you a walkthrough through his house ever.
Well, that's because if he walked through that door at the end of the room, it would be it'd be up a flight of stairs and into his parents' house. So
true.
They'd probably tell him off, right?
Yep.
Mom.
All right.
You can make fun of him all you want because he never goes back to listen to these shows, so it doesn't matter. You can say whatever you want.
Exactly.
You'll never hear any of this, so it doesn't make a difference.
Once Noel called me to ask me about something, and I heard somebody shouting at him in the background. I was like, "What's all that?" And he was just like, "Oh, I'm going out of the house to get a coffee, and that's my mum shouting at me to get a coffee." It's like, actually, context is not important here because it's just obviously more of my evidence that he lives in a basement. That's the important thing
of a Cosmos baby.
Yeah.
Why no corks on hat?
So USDC here, but we need some big regulated US based company to go buy a bunch of it, exchange it for shit coins on Osmosis so that the rest of us can buy it permissionlessly, and then we can finally have the thing we're after.
We can all lose money together.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
So the way I see it is, right, Osmosis Foundation's got like 1.5 mil in USDC on Mars supplying USDC. They can just 1-to-1 swap it, sell it, get some circle, and now, we can fight amongst ourselves for the 1.5 mil USDC on Osmosis.
Well, it looks like there has been $1.8 million in USDC minted, but a grand total of $4 IBC'd out. So that's nice.
I'm not sure if I don't think IBC is enabled just yet. You can buy it. Just get inflated for now. Hey, it's stop yucking my yum, bringing the mood down.
I'm not bringing the mood down. I'm just saying it's funny that only $4 have been IBC'd out. I bet it has been IBC'd out because they would have needed to get the denom from Osmosis somehow. I suppose they probably could have built it manually, but it probably would have been easier to be like, I'll just shoot over.
Right. Here it is.
Yeah.
I know Kuji and stuff do this. I don't know how they do it, but they like pre-seed it or something and be like, hey, look, we're ready for native USDC. All the wallets apparently too are all ready. So I don't know how you do that when you don't have the denom.
Well, you can build the denom because it's a function of like the originating denom and like the chain ID and something else. It's pretty easy to build.
Micro denom and
I
guess they just build it and then put it in their DApp. There you go. Anyway, I'd just like to quickly, I think people that are very important to this around USDC, we've got to thank them all of their hard work, all of their building, incredible feat. Can't wait for all of that liquidity to flow in. It's going to happen. DYDX going to be the catalyst, you see. Next news agenda, MetaMask Snaps open beta. It is here. Got a little bit front run by Leap a couple of times and Shade on their own announcement, but officially MetaMask Snaps beta is here. Multiple chains and wallets have already announced it. As I said, Leap, Shade, but now Cosmos has got it. So I believe over the next few days, we'll start to see, more apps like Osmosis, etc. I think Cosmos Kit probably look to adopt it and get it. At the moment, there's only like a handful of chains or DApps using it. Stargaze used it the other day to buy an NFT. That's kind of cool.
Jorge did it. Yeah, saw that. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep. And
it doesnn't support Ledger though, right? Not to wait. Hold on. Are we still in the positive section of the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't.
I'll refrain.
Yeah. So there are a couple of limitations. So within the native wallet itself, you can't do like send transactions. So you can you have your So you need the DApp to have a send function. The wallet doesn't have a send function. So there are a couple of limitations, and I think it wasn't officially announced, but if you check like Sam Hart, who is kind of leading it from a biz dev side, he said that the first iteration is going to be quite limited.
And to be clear, it's a Snap beta that got released, right? So it's not like it's a Cosmos. So there's a ton of add-ins or snaps that got released on the same day because MetaMask released it, right? So it's new for everybody. It's new for every ecosystem. So that makes sense. So it's going to take time to mature and all that kind of good stuff.
Exactly. And I think the big kind of news story here for me is we're going to have MetaMask. It's going to, 35 million users. I think, not to be too negative, but you need to have some form of like go-to-market strategy with that to attract new users. They're not just going to come because Cosmos. And I haven't seen anyone have a plan for its release. And I think that's kind of the biggest disappointment in a sense for me. It's like, hey, it's here. We've got some functionality. Let's have a plan where we can onboard some users. Who are they going to be? How are we going to do that?
While I agree, I do think that the MetaMask integration itself is a huge deal. whenever I have to like go to Solana and download Phantom, I'm always like, you know what? I don't know if I'm really that interested in this network. So I don't know. I absolutely see the criticism for sure that like there needs to be more holistic approach to like completing the picture for people that want to come over. But even just getting this step, I think, is pretty incredible.
Oh, definitely, right. And it's going to remove a massive blocker, which is ETH people don't like to touch other wallets, and they're not going to, create a new wallet. So it's a good news there. I think.
Well, it's because ETH users are basically Windows users in like 1998, and they just want to use IE.
Jeez.
I would accept that criticism, except how many wallets now have had exploits where people lost their mnemonic because they started using that other wallet? Like I don't know. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, fair, but like MetaMask, it doesn't feel like the safest either. Like I don't know. I don't trust it any more than.
I agree, and the interface of it, I think, kind of sucks.
Yeah,
it basically is the same as it was when it launched. I mean, there's a few small differences, but it's not super fun to use.
It's similar to a couple of the Kepler 1, which was clunky, but once you learned how it thought, it was very straightforward. Like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. Yeah. And then I think Kepler 2 lost that a little bit because you have to like kind of relearn how they're thinking about the chain structure and like the idea of being able to allow specific coins on each individual wallet that you have and all that kind of shit, which is kind of pain in the ass.
I think that sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. No, I was gonna say, so I think that'll happen here as well. Because I mean, I fucked with it a little bit. I didn't do any transactions, which it was associated with the ledger, but I was able to at least log into some sites and see some stuff. And I think you had a note here also, Rummer, about like the scary kind of warnings that come up with that. And there was a shitload too. It was like, hey, this like the wording was not great. Like the wording was like, I should have taken a screenshot of it, but
we will take control of your Cosmos assets.
I think it's exactly what it was. Like
you are going to get
rugged. It allows you to take control of like Atom, and it allows you to take control of this. And there was a list of like 75 of them, right? And the launch chains in that first integration were not what I thought. Actually, I think it was Cosmos and Osmosis and a couple other ones, but there was a couple like Metablock was in there and a bunch of like old school stuff in there as well. But some other newer one like Stride wasn't in there, Ui wasn't in there.
By old school, do you mean shit chains? You said, but...
yeah. I mean, use your own definitions, but yeah, like the wording was a little bit weird. It was like, we'll take control of your Atom and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, at least it logged in, and I also don't. You can't see those tokens within the wallet right yet. I don't think. So it still takes it's got a ways to go, right? But
it's very DApp focused. Right, so it's not very wallet focused. It's very DApp focused. So if the DApp doesn't provide the functionality of mint NFT, send, TX, etc., you're likely not going to see it within the MetaMask wallet.
Yeah.
Essentially, all it's doing is signing the transaction.
It's signing. You're right. It's a signing interface is really what it is, right? So, which I guess also non-ledger, so it kind of limits it as well. But hopefully those things will be.
I think that Pontum is a great iteration on MetaMask. Like Pontum is a wallet on the Aptos ecosystem, and they kind of started their interface with the MetaMask interface, and they kind of iterated on it just a little bit. And in my opinion, their interface is really like the final form. Like if you want to do MetaMask right, you do Pontum.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree. Even with, I mean, they also don't deal with the multi-chain thing as much, right? They're dealing with multi-wallet, but like the whole thing. Like it's a tough UI experience when you're talking about multiple different chains and you have the same wallet, which might have the same key structure, but slightly different across those. And like, it's not the easiest UI challenge to solve, and especially in Cosmos, like, I don't know how they're going to do that, but if like they granted access to whatever this 20 chains are, if all those things show up as tokens in the MetaMask wallet, people are going to hate that shit, right? Like they don't want to see that because right now it's really permission to be able to add a token within there. And I think you have to have you don't have to have a balance, but at least you have to have you have to have something to be able to initiate that structure where that gets shown, or to go out and search and see if you have a balance on a different ERC20. And so maybe that would have to be the same because you wouldn't want to see this big long list of, which I think MetaMask or Kepler does right now, right? So I think it's the reason they hide some of those types of things because they don't want to show 75 or 100 different chains with zero balances on them. Anyway, Yeah, but anyway, it's good stuff, right? I think it's a starting point, and we'll see what comes next.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It was always fun, like jumping in and being like, hey, like I'm using MetaMask to buy an NFT and play around with it. That was cool. So hopefully we get some adoption from it, and let's see version 2.
So do you think that who owns to go to market there? Like, is that a? I mean, there's AADAO did some sponsoring of this to be able to help build some of these. Leap has their own. Does Stargaze? Is it like, say, an NFT? It's Stargaze obviously has now they have a not the most beautiful, but a inroad to a tremendous more of amount of users. So each chain has their own GDM go to market around each of that, right? Or do you think there's a centralized entity that does a larger go to market around being able to show MetaMask users that this world has opened?
I think it should be both. I think something like either AADAO or even ICF should be leading a broader go-to-market strategy for Cosmos. You can now using your MetaMask wallet, you can connect to Cosmos. Here's how to do it. Here's various apps that are supported, etc. I think that should be what they're doing from a holistic approach. But then individually, I think whoever's trying to capture some of that liquidity that's coming across should have their own go-to-market strategies, right? So Neutron, Osmosis, Stargaze as examples, or Shade as examples, they should be having a plan to onboard users. And I suggested this to the Stargaze team, is bring back the original Stars airdrop, but modify it for MetaMask users and wallets, and specifically target your audience, right? Who is your audience? It's going to be NFT whales, right? You don't want to airdrop to the plebs. That's very obvious. They're just going to farm your stars and leave. So some things that you could do as examples would be, the original airdrop was like task and claim based. So first thing is like bridge $500 from ETH to stars, right? If you do that, you're eligible to collect some stars. Mint an open edition minter for free. You can claim some stars. LP some stars USDC in a pool. You can claim some stars, like locking it up. So then you're incentivizing them and bringing them across and getting them involved in both the token and the platform. And things like, listing an NFT or buying an NFT, you can then claim some stars, whether it's vested or not, whatever. There's obviously a risk there, but at least you're attempting to bring across liquidity over the bridges and getting those NFT whales involved. And, he's had to buy a bad kid, come and do it and claim some stars, as an example.
Sure.
You don't want to shill bad kids all the time. I think it's a bit played out, but like,
agreed. Yeah.
They're the only blue chip. They're the only blue chip. They're the only real blue chip in our hearts.
But the tooling is there. That idea, that's basically like a Stargaze welcome pack, right? Like you build some structure around some specific activities that you want to be able to have and those types of things, which I think makes sense. Like, then I guess the benefit is, I mean, I'm just so disappointed with the Stargaze price, because at under a cent, I think it's anything that's under, I think, a cent in the USD is still, I think people look down on that as a project, even though I think that is one of the best projects in the ecosystem. I think it's one of the best projects in crypto. And I think that really undermines the value and the quality of the tooling, the quality of some of the projects on there, and everything else that's coming behind that. Like, that's the only part that really disappoints me. But I guess that's, it's a mix of things that create that. But I think that makes sense.
There's some challenges, right? Like, I think there's the pools that NFT pools are coming out soon. I think pairing your NFTs against stars. I think utilizing liquid stake stars across the marketplace would be a lot better. So rather than just using native stars, you can use liquid stake stars. You can list and buy against liquid stake stars. And again, I harp on this for days and days and weeks. Getting their own pair against USDC will support and strengthen the token, rather than being only paired against Osmosis. That's one of it's obviously not the issue, but it's one of the issues that they face.
But that's not does DYDX single-handedly solve that problem, or that's like, could Kajira do that as well? Does DYDX, you talk about, like, in terms of like one click across from Ethereum USDC to Cosmos USDC and like really making that seamless associated that. Are you relating that idea back to the DYDX thing, or just in general?
That's just Squid Router, and I think it's either GMP or CCTP. The Axelar, etc. the bridges are making that one-click experience in packet forward middleware, from my understanding. So it doesn't. That's just the bridging. Pooling against USDC for your sovereign L1 is critical. Getting away from other tokens that are having downward pressure, and then obviously Stargaze itself needs to figure out its token, right? Like you're minting everything in stars. You're selling on secondary in stars. People are going to take their profits in stars, and it's going to put downward pressure on the token. So you need to solve that problem. Either burn more tokens or enable people to list in other tokens that don't put pressure on the token. So,
which I think is coming, right? I think that was also
a good thing that USDC has just entered player 2.
Yeah. And I think now that Cosmos Hub's deployed the liquid staking module, I think we'll probably see other chains start to do it soon. So I think it would make sense for stars to put LSM on there, and then all that stake stars you can now have liquid. You can pair it against your NFTs, still staking it, increase the staking amount on the chain, and then use it in DeFi and LP it, etc.
So wasn't there already Stride liquid staking module exist? Like, what's different?
Yeah, instant unbond. So the liquid staking module takes your staked stars or atom and enables you to instantly unbond it into a liquid stake derivative that you can use elsewhere.
So the only difference between that and ST atom is what? Just the unbonding period to be able to... Oh, okay. So it bypasses the unbonding period to be able to turn that into liquid staking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which we're about to get to. So a nice little segue there. The Cosmos Hub exit liquidity module is now live. Private little groups will know why that one's funny. I'll read the headline. Sorry. Exit liquidity module.
I think it's very important to bring up the fact that we've had 2 headlines in a row, which you've not read your own snippy headline. And let's be honest. Well, let's be honest. You would give Niall a lot of stick if he did not read that verbatim.
I read it. It's Cosmos Hub exit liquidity module is live, enabling all previous bag holders to convert their staked atom into a receipt token, which they can use to obtain ST atom via Stride. A little bit of you could also do it via persistence if you wanted to, but we all know that 90% of it's going to be Stride. A little bit of tech talk here, which is rather interesting. I was listening into the liquid stake module call with Stride and Informal, and when you get you tokenize your atoms from your staked atom into your tokenized atom, which is your unbonded atom, you then move it to Stride and get staked atom. You can then use that wherever and however you want. Stride then has an obligation to stake atoms back into the validator set.
Right.
The way that that's currently operating is that there's one interchain account for all staked atom. It's like 3.5 million atoms. And there's a limitation within, I believe, the SDK module where you can only do 7 redelegations per month. So what they do is they actually hold that on atom, the unstaked atoms, as an NFT until they hit their monthly redelegation cycle.
What?
That word for word, please confirm it from the space that I linked in the, but it's in the recording.
So that seems like a limitation that could be. That could be a governance change, right? In terms of changing the.
I don't think that's a I don't think it's a
that's
parameter.
Not a fundamental SDK thing.
I think it's a code side limitation. Yeah, there's a lot of there are quite a lot of limitations with interchain accounts because they're still like quite early days, and there's a lot of here be dragons type stuff in the code.
Well, that's not a limitation in ICA though. That's just a staking limitation. You can only undelegate 7 times per month, or maybe in a period per account.
Yeah,
so
it's the interaction between
challenge
ICA and staking.
The challenge is the way that Stride is doing their delegations, and this isn't
right.
Other DApps have had this. So Cosmos Millions, what are they called? The vaults on Osmosis, Quasar had the same issue.
Quasar, yeah.
So both of those using inner chain accounts faced the same issue after the fact. So they went live, realized that they hit their redelegation or undelegation cap, and users' accounts funds were just locked. So the solution that they've come up with is to use multiple accounts and do batching to handle it. It seems like Stride just wants to have one account, and they'll just do their delegation once a month.
So there is what's the expectation of loss with that sitting on the sideline? Because I mean, while it sits in that structure, it's not earning, right? So there's a loss in terms of APR. So they just do the math to figure out and lower that expectation based off this weird NFT monthly staking structure.
Yeah, I didn't. I was listening to it. It's like 2 a.m. or something. So I fell asleep, but I listened to that part and I just thought it was noteworthy. And essentially they handle their delegations and redelegations once a month. The delta is sitting there waiting in between, and you probably just suffer a small hit.
What happens if there's a slashing event with the validator that they're delegated to? That's going to cause them a pretty big economic problem.
They do a governance proposal and everybody just forgives it and they move on.
Of course, yeah. We just rewrite the ledger.
I think that's what we
cause
do.
a chain
we
hard
ignore
fork
the
and then move on.
rules. That's right.
But wait, aren't they? No, but they're a fucking silly balls chain now, aren't they? ICS. Can't the rewriting the ledger just got a lot harder, right? Because you stop your ledger, you stop consensus for other that other chain, the one they brought up with it. Neutron? No. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
they don't have to fork though, right? I thought they just governance prop that out and figure out well, maybe I don't know how they do that actually.
So if you get slashed on Atom, you just get slashed. If you get slashed on a consumer chain, you've got to go through the slashing prop.
So that's right. But that's the thing. If you get slashed on Atom and then you have to do shenanigans on Latum, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. So your point being that if an Atom validator gets slashed, that holds a significant amount of these Stride bonded tokens.
Caveat to that, where you're forgetting one of the greatest features of the liquid stake module is that we centralize all this staked Atom into 32 validators' hands. So the select 32 are the cream of the crop primo validators that we don't slash. They just fundamentally don't get slashed. All of the other validators who offer liquid staking, their stake and their liquid tokens for their delegators go to these other 32 to centralize the chain. So problem solved.
I hope it's
right, but those 32 can still be slashed.
Technically, yes, but they're the best. That's why they're getting all that.
Well, I mean, given that they're the best, we're obviously not disagreeing with that. I'm sure that there are some names in there that we all think are, the most professional outfits to ever grace this earth. But let's imagineer a narrative where one of those guys gets slashed, then that's going to cause all hell of problems when you're looking at downstream economic effects. It's like an actual economy, but like an economy only built on derivatives. I mean, I can't think of a time that this has ever gone wrong in human history, so it's probably going to be fine.
Should be fine.
But hey, it's all right because we got fiat in the ecosystem now, finally. So we can build some new derivatives on top of that, which would be cool.
We've got all this additional economic stimulus through the ecosystem now that we'll be able to recover from it really easy, because all that previously staked Atom that was securing the hub is now liquid, and we can use it and generate some inflation elsewhere.
Lots of inflation. Yeah.
I mean, it's all really, really good news before America goes into an election cycle that could cause them to fall into a civil war. So I for one, am looking forward.
What you're talking about.
Americans nah,
I'm
not stockpiling baked beans. That would be madness. That would be
fine.
Yeah.
I'm not putting a bunker in the backyard. It's fine.
I'm just buying up a supply of NATO flags to sell as like souvenirs when day one, Lemonhead withdraws from NATO and it becomes a footnote in history books. I'll be that guy on eBay. Get _your _NATO _flags _1985 selling NATO flags, historic memorabilia, €100 a piece. Niche market. He's cornered it. He bought them all. He bought them all before the guy even got elected. He knew it was coming. Insider trading. Don't know what other flags would be consigned to the history books. The Ukrainian one probably, because he'll just sell them out to the Russians. So buy up your Ukrainian flags too. That's a dark one. Sorry about that, Ukrainian listeners. Slava Ukraini.
We have one.
Yeah.
Maybe two.
Had one.
Had.
Hey, look, if it was my call, Raytheon would be spending a lot more time producing Javelin missiles for Ukraine. That's all I'm saying. Anyway.
All right, I think that's a great segue into our next news topic, which is all about Friends.
I heard of it.
So there's two things that I wanted to talk to. Stargaze looks like they're shipping lots of features related to community. One of the devs released a new on-chain community chat. So it's tied to your, Stars wallet. ibc.chat is where it is, and you can go in there. You can DM other wallets. You can create groups, and you can chat without transactions. But your ID is your star name.
Do you know who did that?
That's kind of cool. Yeah, the tweet is in the spreadsheet.
Okay.
I don't know the gentleman's name. I haven't heard of him too much before, but they shipped that, which is cool.
So is the Twitter account. So
who is it? Oh, is it Fabian?
So it leads me to conclude it may well be Fabian Penso.
It is Fabian Penso. Okay, yeah. We work with him because he does a lot of the stuff behind the scenes at Stargaze, and I think he's part of the Stargaze team now.
Is he part of the Stargaze team now?
Maybe it may be tangential. I don't know, but I know he handles a lot of the stuff related to Constellation and some of the market behind the scene marketplace structure.
I know he's a dev. Like I met him in the early days.
We talk all the time, actually, just because he uses some RPC stuff and we pin all the IPFS stuff for Stargaze, so he provides a link or a feed for that based on what's coming through testnet to mainnet and all that kind of good stuff. So that's really cool. I didn't know that. 49 people waiting to be let in. Oh, I need an invite code. Time to work the back channel.
Yes. Yeah.
Is this similar to the one on Secret? What's it called? I don't remember. I'm losing track. But they had this on Secret, right?
So I think the intention is to have this for, the interchain or for whatever chain you wanted. One of the comments of the news article here was, I thought was quite hilarious. Like the minute that was posted, Zaki jumped into the replies and he's just like, can we make this token gated and only access for a certain amount of staked atoms so we can use it for governance? So I had to take the opportunity to quote retweet and shit post on it. So I was like, the poor and the new are not allowed to speak to governance. You will listen to the rich and the old guard.
I jumped in there. I'm like, isn't that exactly what current Cosmos governance is? That's exactly what it is. This fucking, it's all validators voting. What do you want? How much more centralized can it be than elected officials? Come on now. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, here's this fun community thing. You can get involved and chat with your NFT community. No, we will token gate this, and this is for us to discuss official governance business. And if you're a pleb, you are not allowed in. But it's fun.
Like a song off the wall or something.
No plebs allowed.
Pink Floyd song, just exactly about built of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the second one, which was kind of subtly released, was Shane from Stars. He's done like a 400-line Cosmos version of Friends.tech. So I think he's looking to kind of get that into beta and start testing that, which would be interesting. So
I looked at
community focused.
After you posted, I looked at the repo. It was all like 3 or 4 weeks ago. That seemed, I don't know Shane very well, but I know him well enough to at least, I think he probably looked at that, saw the hype around. He's like, I could build that, and just maybe pulled an all-nighter, just built the whole damn thing. Because it's all like, it looked like it was one push like 3 weeks ago. So it's pretty cool. hopefully he does it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm battling tech support over here still. Yeah, I think it's really cool, like especially for stars in particular, like shipping community-based features like that, right? Like they're very community orientated, so it makes sense for them to kind of ship those kind of community chats. And if you can get it on chain and it's away from Web 2 type social, then I think we're making good steps. Especially if it's not using transactions, but it's using your on-chain identity. I think those are kind of cool.
Yep, very cool.
So Jake's lurking in the chat and has said was actually in the first version of Stargaze, which I remember Steak Bird, which was the state. I'm pretty sure that was the name of it.
Is that
was
the chat part or which part?
That was it was like there was a bunch of stuff with sort of like delegated staking and social staking and stuff. So it's something obviously that Shane's thought a lot about, and the rest of the Stargaze team have thought a lot about over the years. So it's no surprise that obviously they've got some thoughts about how that would work, and therefore I think there's that back to the thing that we've talked about with Stargaze before, when we had Shane on and Jorge on, and we've also obviously talked to Jake about it too at one point or another. Like everybody knows, the whole NFT thing is basically a social thing, and that's the way it works. So I think the team very much started on the social side, pivoted to the NFT side because that had a bigger community than Web3 social, and now heading back in that sort of direction, which again kind of makes sense as a kind of roadmap. To your point, Usurper, like it's back to the thing of like the reason that Stargaze is a pretty good project in Cosmos terms is they're a project that probably actually have a roadmap, unlike most others, to be honest.
Well, I think other than getting away from derivatives and swapping tokens and everything else, like there's a real product here that is a very early that can grow into a tremendous amount of different things, right? And I think the power of NFTs or a power of an NFT is still, I think there's a lot of use cases still left to be defined.
I mean, if I had to place a bet on which one of the many random Cosmos coins that we as a company hold from being early, I guess, that is likely to be worth anything in the future, that would probably be on Stargaze, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think like one time, I remember I thought about this a few weeks ago, but I think one time I might have said that Stargaze is undervalued in Cosmos, and like that's a true statement, but not a very fair statement because it is extremely valuable and valued in Cosmos, and I think it's nowhere near what it should be. Like, so it's both valued and undervalued, but I really, I mean that team, the way that they ship, and I think what's coming, and
there's also a tension though, because you don't want, like, if you want that stuff to actually work like at a mass scale, like it can't be like ETH prices for NFTs, like that shit's fucking insane.
Yeah, I agreed.
Or at least, well, so
it's all relative, right?
Yeah, so the problem is actually that you have multiple, and this is why fiat currency works for what it works for, right? Is that you have one token trying to be all things to all men, whereas it's actually not just one product, but it's an ecosystem of products that actually have orthogonal use cases. It's back to the thing of like essentially validators ideally always they need to have money, right? They need to have money, they need to sell, right? But you don't want downward pressure on your token. And you also don't want validator selling to affect NFT prices, but it will do if it's all of these kind of, everything is kind of all interconnected, and it's all in this bear market. It's back to I don't know why our Australian contingent is always the most down with DeFi, but it's back down to what our Australian contingent always talk about with LSM and all this sort of stuff, to reduce that kind of pressure or to change it. And a lot of that is just because of the app chain model is still, the entire ecosystem has to be built on that new coin, right? And then when you get away from that and you go, well, we can just spin up any number of coins, you end up going back to the proliferation of shit coins of Ethereum, but with like just a tiny footprint, because each app chain in Cosmos is like chicken feed compared to, other than maybe Atom, it's chicken feed to a lot of the size of ecosystems that you need to be in order to have that proliferation of altcoins. Let's be polite to them.
But it's all relative. Like, I mean, even you never know how good you have it, because like we do a lot of transactions in the Ethereum world too. And if I can do an actual transfer, if I can do some things for under $5 a transaction, I'm pretty happy. Like I'm like, all right, this is a good deal. Like it's only $3.40 for me to send this token. So that's like maybe under 20, 25 Gwei, something similar to that, right? I'm pretty ecstatic. And you go on Twitter and everybody's fucking bitching about less than 1 cent transaction fees in Cosmos. Like, yeah, I know it's not much, but I'm going to do 1 million of these. So therefore that really adds up, folks. Like I get it, but at the same time, like there has to be some balance there, right? Like, so, we want to get, I think we all want to get to the point of trying to reduce mint, and we were trying to reduce inflation and be able to work off fees. And like, there has, like, to your point, I think there's going to be a balance there, and some chains will find that balance and others will not. Like, I think Rama said the same thing, right? Like, and whether or not that's all, if all the pressure's on just the native token, that's a tough spot to be in, because like we get usually paid in the native token, right? That's the way that we have to eat. And so therefore we're automatically putting downward pressure on. That's what it is.
I think the infinity swaps that's coming out very soon, from what I hear, will be quite a catalyst, right? Like, the previous marketplace experience where it is nice for Stargaze. It's just replicating, very basic features that we have on kind of ETH and have had for a very long time. So having something new from a Cosmos perspective, with being able to LP your own tokens, reducing or removing royalties for creators, and then minting 10% of the collection for themselves and pairing it against either stars or USDC, it kind of opens up a lot more of those kind of DeFi options, and you will hopefully see kind of less direct sell pressure on the token, because rather than going to the marketplace and go, oh, do I want to buy that NFT, you can just do a straight swap. You go, hey, I want to swap this amount of X token, and I receive 5 of the related NFTs, because the floor price is determined by how many are paired in the pool against said token. So I think with secondary with different Tokens, Atom, USDC, whatever you want to do, whilst also using something like Osmosis's fee abstraction module as an example, where you can buy a token, buy an NFT with Atom off the secondary. The portion of that that's supposed to be burnt is swapped into stars and burnt with the fee abstraction module, as an example. So the community is still getting what it's promised via governance. You're not putting downward sell pressure on the token, because it's the secondaries in a different token. And perhaps you send a small percentage to the foundation or the community pool to start accruing value back into the chain itself to continue development and diversify the community pool, etc. So there's lots of options there. It's just a matter of how you implement it and how long it takes to do it. One of my criticisms of Cosmos is things take too long, right? Like 6 months to deliver infinity swaps on Stargaze, for example. Small teams on Ethereum deliver that in a few weeks, right? With a very basic website. And now we're in the position where we're releasing infinity swaps on Stargaze, but they've already got curved pools on Ethereum, right? And they're already moving on from these basic pooling mechanisms to different new mechanisms that they've invented on Ethereum. So we just need to kind of find that balance between delivering features and providing a good user experience to make sure we're staying relevant. If we're not staying relevant in terms of features and functionality of either DeFi or NFTs, we're not going to attract new users. We need to be innovating and bringing new features that other people don't have, and attracting users that way. So.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, that's a little bit about money and everything, isn't it? Like, it's a little bit where we are.
Oh, I would say that it's the development cycle, right? Like, I think that Cosmos prides itself on, especially our like blue chip chains, pride ourselves on delivering these incredibly good user experience. Concentrated liquidity and infinity swaps as 2 examples, right? They're going to be very nice features, but they've taken a year to deliver.
But is that purely development, or is that more just risk adverse because it's early and we want to make, like, those teams don't want to make incorrect steps, or like, is that just being cautious, or because it's early for the ecosystem, or is that truly like we're all agreement this is where we want to be. It just takes forever to be able to build.
I think it's probably cautious, and also shows the lack of, basic developer that we have in Cosmos. So, in the bull market, we use Fortis as the example, right? Absolute crazy ride, degen, but the innovation that opened up with, pairing pairing LPs against other base tokens, that's a cool feature that other chains could use. And they're probably featured in their code that other chains could use. If we had degens building alternative marketplaces for stars where they shipped, these like for like features on Ethereum very quick and dirty, and then Stargaze goes, oh, that's kind of cool, let's add that as part of our D app or an additional feature. I just think we're relying on these core devs to build these core platform features, so they take their time with it to make sure it's right. But that development cycle means that we miss out on other innovation opportunities.
But Fortis also didn't work, right? It didn't stick. So you're also relating it to something that fizzled. And so, and these teams are building for a decade, so they're not going to like just step into something that, like, from a consumer perspective, there might be 10 chains that could do this job. So that, like, we want to see things happen fast and move forward. But from a team perspective, they're trying to hold on to the value and grow it at a sustainable rate, right? So they don't want to take that amount of risk and risk something that could destroy the chain as well, right?
For sure, right? And that's why I said, the two blue chip examples take the slower, less risk averse approach. Having something like, these crazy features built on like Hua or something, right, is a perfect example of like,
based on what
they
what'd you say?
Chihuahua, Hua. Like that's where this degen stuff should be built, right? And then you have your blue chips go, oh, right. is that nice? Let's leverage off that and bring that feature in. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I agree with that. Yeah, and to your point, like Fortis was, you're right. Like what they were, maybe not the full package, but you're right. Is there reasonable components in there we could look at and say this is something that we want to cherry pick out of this and be able to use somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Last news item, which funnily enough, the news now takes up the whole show. Composable Finance, the first chain to bring us an IBC connection to DOT, is requesting to join the Atom Economic Zone. In their original proposal, they asked for 450,000 atoms for protocol and liquidity, which was very swiftly removed after some basic questions from the community. Their plan is to make the hub the IBC router for the interconnected network of blockchains. And they've pitched a bunch of revenue through IBC transactions, and they're going to provide 8 million Pika tokens, which is their chains token, per day for the validator set from inflations. And the Pika token's got a bunch of zeros in front of its price, and it's down 80% since May. So I think there's probably some questions around economic sustainability there. And transaction volumes, but
yes, put it up.
Yeah, what's a little bit more price pressure on the Atom validator set.
It's fine.
We okay. So that's an interesting one. I think initially there was some scrutiny around the founder, which is always going to happen. But I'm more interested in the economic model, right? Like currently, there's been about 5,000 volume across their DEX. In dollars, so like how much IBC volume have we had from DOT to Cosmos? And
5,000 USD.
Yeah,
not 5,000 transactions. $5,000 straight up across the entire thing.
From what I can see, it's very difficult to see because they're on PingPub, and I think the IBC client WASM bytecodes don't decode very well. So like actually tracking transaction volume is very difficult. So I can only use their DEX as like a catalyst of how much has been swapped through as an example, which is quite low, which gives me an indication that there's probably not a whole lot of IBC transaction on top. Main thing is like, I would have thought that if people are interested in being cross ecosystem, we would have seen like a decent uptick in, DOT being LP'd on Osmosis as an example. What is going to be the catalyst for this?
Was the DOT from Composable ever marked as like the canonical DOT? Because you can also get DOT through Axelar, right?
So I would think, yeah, right.
So I believe because it's now through IBC, it's going to be. I don't know if it's actually gone through on chain as the canonical dot.
Okay.
But the composable chain Centauri will be basically, it's going to hold all the denoms for everything that comes from dot. And they plan to do that for like AVAX and ETH, and they want it to be an AEZ chain and provide 20% of the revenue back to the hub. So my biggest thing is like the transaction volume, right? Like, why would people bring their dot to Cosmos other than being long on dot and then using it in DeFi to earn some Cosmos assets? I just don't see the big catalyst here. And it's the same for like AVAX and stuff, right? Like, you're just going to swap.
Yeah, well, it's also about the size of the ecosystem, like, and what you can do, and what can you do in Cosmos that you can't do in Polkadot. I mean, there's quite a few things, but they mainly are. I mean, they're mainly technical, really. Like, as a developer, there's a lot of reasons for being in the Cosmos ecosystem rather than the Polkadot one. But to the end user, way, maybe you don't care. You're just a shitcoin investor. Potato, no.
And the biggest thing is, which is why I think Composable has been going around asking for protocol and liquidity from a bunch of dexes, Neutron, Atom. I assume they'll ask for Osmo as well. Is like, you'll bring your dot across, you might use it in something, but at the end of the day, you're going to most likely need to or want to swap it at some point. And if you don't have liquidity along that path, then it's essentially useless bridging it across.
Right. Answer your question. And Schulte, that is coming across through Moonbeam, not XLR, but that's coming through Moonbeam on Osmo.
I thought Moonbeam was through XLR.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, it's just a front end?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
My bad.
There's other dot that's not visible or usable anywhere. Yeah.
Interesting.
Anywho, Atom Economic Zone props are always fun. So we'll see if it gets on chain and how that plays out.
You got to work on your order of these. You kind of left on a down note. You got to work on the order of these.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great news. More chains wanting to join the AEZ. It's bullish, don't you think?
Even though you said it's not going to happen, but yeah, it's bullish.
Quality.
I'm not an Atom validator. I am not gifted the opportunity to vote to change the world.
This feels a little bit like quantity as a quality all of its own. Whenever there's like another one of these projects coming along, you're a little bit like, I mean, it might do something, but it might not. And I've been wrong before. So now I'm just like, yeah. It's kind of, I guess it's all kind of back to the bullish or bullshit from Ben Davis in the chat. Yes, indeed. It's kind of all back to the match. I think like impossibly this is like the vestiges of half an economic degree poking through. But I guess I look at some of that stuff and I go, well, the user base isn't significantly different. And what can we offer like the average user that they couldn't do in their own eco? And it's like definitely bullish to have it, right? May as well. Why not? But you're also just like, it's not enough to turn the needle on anything significant. That's like a macro question. That's like a macro question of where we are with inflation, the wider economy, access to liquidity, access to fiat, what people have in their own pockets, right? And I'm not sure we can just create derivatives to get ourselves out of that problem. Like, because fundamentally, like somewhere somebody's getting paid for their day job, and eventually that money ends up as liquidity somewhere, as shitcoins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, the vector for it all, the party all happening is somewhere far away from where we are for the majority of users. Like nobody's getting paid.
I think like
we hope.
One example is, we use DAO as an example. And the reason I've mentioned this is because I know Funky's an avid watcher of the show. And they have the Kusumarian on